Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app, on Apple Podcasts, on Android, Spotify, or the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Though either way, lately we recommend Spotify. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server, $2.99 per month. Link right here in the description. Most heat anywhere. And when things break, you're going to want to be there. Draft, transactions, all of that stuff, especially this month and into July. And it's $2.99 per month. It's less than a cup of coffee. Check it out. It's Off the Floor. Link right there in the description. You'll bypass the Apple upcharge. Also, check out Prize Picks. $5 gets you 50. Pretty good deal. Put down 5. Legal in the state of Florida. Play across the sports spectrum. Up to 6 players together. Flex plays. It's all there again. So check it out. And again, you can join our contest right now. I will give you the standings going into tonight. Through 2 games of the NBA Finals, we've both been given. All 4 of us have been given $20 to play each time. So $40. I've turned it into 90. Greg has turned it into 82.50. Alex has turned it into 8. Brady has turned it into 0.
Well, I haven't played
We'll
all
see what
$40
happens.
to be fair, but it's fine. I'll take the L for now.
Take the L. Join us tonight. Use the code 5, FIVE. And now, today's episode.
Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah, Mercy and Lago, down in Biscayne, yeah, 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs, where here's the thing, you can check the score, hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frauds, down in Biscayne. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, Inspire have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. Got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. Got lots of episodes going up, a lot on the draft and other things. But anytime there's anything related to Kevin Durant, we're going to break in. So that's basically what we're doing today. We're going to give you the latest, and then we're going to pose a question. And Alex, can't say it's a tough one because I gave it to you a couple hours ago. Would you extend Kevin Durant? So everything we talk about today is going to lead to that question. But let me give you the latest. Shams is reporting. There's been a lot of reporting that Durant's going to be traded prior to the draft. Okay, it's coming up on June 25th. By the way, join our coverage. We will be down at the arena on June 25th. Myself, Alex, and Brady. I've reported before that the Heat at the deadline offered Jimmy Butler, Nikola Jovic, and a first-round pick. Josh Richardson was originally in it. That was as far as they could or would go because the Suns couldn't aggregate salaries. So there was a lot of stuff that would have had to play out. I know some are questioning that reporting. Barry has the same reporting. It's the correct reporting. I'm standing by my reporting. Okay. The Suns asked for a lot more. The question now is whether they're in position to ask for more. And one of the things that the Heat can't offer now is Jimmy Butler. They don't have his contract anymore, obviously. So there's frameworks of deals, which likely would include Andrew Wiggins, Duncan Robinson's contract, which could be wiped out, which would save the Suns a lot of money, which is something they need to do because they're so far over the second apron or will be so far over the second apron. And then we're talking first round picks and like 1 or 2 young players, probably. And the question is like, which young player? Is it Jaquez? Is it Jovic? Is it where? And I think that's how the Suns would evaluate them, as I'm doing the hand signal here, likely how the Heat would evaluate them at this stage. Now, we also have the issue of teams that could get involved, and that's where there was new reporting today. So Shams reported at ESPN, and again, you got to take all this with a grain of salt because agents are out there, executives are out there, there's smoke screens, we're close to the draft, we're close to free agency and all the rest of this. People just put out stuff that they hear from one person or whatever. But basically, he's saying that the teams that are involved in having communication with the Suns or with Rich Kleiman, who is Durant's agent / business manager, are the Rockets, the Wolves, the Spurs, the Heat, and the Knicks. And we've mentioned all 5 of those teams. As we've done episodes, we've talked about all 5 of those teams. The Knicks are like a later rival to this because we really didn't know what they were going to be doing. But the three in the West have been the three in the West we've talked about all along. The only issue was would OKC maybe get involved, but it doesn't appear that that's something that's going to happen at this point. Okay. But all of these teams, Alex, have advantages over the Heat in terms of getting Durant, but then there's also caveats with all of them. So, for instance, the Wolves, the Spurs, and the Rockets all have a higher pick to trade, right? I'm right about that. The Spurs certainly do. The Rockets, the Spurs have two. They have the second pick and the 14th pick, although I don't think there's any way they trade the second pick. Second pick and the 14th pick. The Rockets do as well, right? And then where the Wolves pick, but they pick higher than the
They're
Heat,
a couple
right? The
picks
Heat
ahead
pick
of the
20th.
Heat. They're like
Right.
17 or 18, something like that. They're one of those two.
Okay, and
the
most
Rockets
people
are
wouldn't
10.
think that because they were better than the Heat this year, but it's because they have picks from other teams. And of course, the Heat have a pick from another team, which drop them because they don't have their own pick at 15. They have the Spurs pick at, the Warriors pick at 20. So all three of those teams in the West, before we get to the Knicks, all three of those teams in the West have a better pick to trade than the Heat's 20th pick. All three of those teams also have a better team than the Heat to join. And I'm saying that in the Spurs case, even though they didn't have a better record, because they have Wemby, who's doing like a retreat right now and is going to come back and destroy the league. We're calling him Zembayama, okay, whatever. So you have the perk of playing with Wemby. They got a rookie of the year in Stephon Castle. They have a more promising future at the moment than the Heat. They have a stable organization like the Heat. They're breaking in a 38-year-old coach, but the Heat did that in 2008. That went pretty well. So the Spurs are attractive. The Wolves are attractive because Ant is there. And the Rockets are attractive because they're loaded with young players, and they were second in the conference. They also have more assets to potentially trade the Suns. All three of those teams do, if they choose to dip into those assets. But that's the question. And this is why I think, Alex, this is becoming kind of a two-team race. I think it's the Spurs and the Heat. And I'm gonna go through this a little bit. One, the Rockets don't seem that interested throughout. They have not, unless they're totally sandbagging this, and I don't get the sense that they are. There has not been, like, for Giannis, yes, but for KD, they're just not. I know the Texas ties and all that. They're no state tax, the whole thing. There does not seem to be a lot of push from Houston to break up the young core to go get him, even though they have enough young pieces to do it. Minnesota, it's come out, and maybe this is posturing, that they don't want to trade Jaden McDaniels and they don't want to move Naz Reid, who's a free agent who they could sign and trade. They're looking to move Gobert or I'm sorry, who am I missing here?
Well, I'm not sure who else would be because Randall and Reed are both free agents. I'm sorry, they both have player options, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a free agent. And then,
well, the talk today, Alex, was maybe Randall, Randall, or
and then I doubt Minnesota would want to do McDaniels.
They don't. And so apparently he's off the table. So if that's the case, you're talking about Randall or Gobert.
Oh, DiVincenzo perhaps as a contract that could be thrown in there.
A contract, but as a core, like if I'm Phoenix, I have to look at it from their perspective too. Like,
yeah,
I want Jaden McDaniels, right? Like, well,
they want a big too. So I think Gobert could have some interest for them because he's obviously, like, we know what he's good at, what he does, and they really want a big. So I'm sure that could have some intrigue from the Suns. But this is why I want to hear more about your explanation for when it comes to the Heat and the Spurs, because I'm very much like, I'm still trying to figure out, like, who has the best offer here, because I think it's a little bit complicated with some of, like, the free agent stuff with Minnesota, for example. You mentioned the Rockets and, like, what they will and won't be willing to offer, which of course you can apply this to anybody. It's like they have this, but will they be willing to offer it? But with the Rockets, there's been so much thrown in as far as, like, they don't want to break up their young core. It was actually reported recently too that they kind of cooled on Booker. So if they cooled on the idea of going after Booker, maybe it's just because the Suns are not going to move him. But if they cooled on that, then why would they be in on KD?
That's my question too. I don't understand that.
It obviously won't cost them that much though.
Right, but okay. And I thought they would be a player for Jimmy because I thought they would lose in the first round, no matter who they played, but especially if they played a veteran team like Golden State, because I just don't think they have a go-to guy. And so I think Durant helps them in that regard. He's just not on the timeline of their other players, and they don't seem inclined to trade Sengun. They don't seem inclined. I mean, Jalen Green, I think they trade, but like they don't seem inclined. I mean, Jabari Smith,
Jalen
Whitmore,
Green
there's
a
a lot
fit
of
for the Suns?
no.
With Beal and Booker?
He's not. No,
that's why it's like maybe he gets like in a theoretical deal with the Rockets, he gets flipped to another team, and the Suns get more picks as a result. Like that could happen, of course, but just.
But Houston also has Phoenix's picks, so that's why. See, that's one of the reasons Houston was thrown out there. So Phoenix, if they want to get their picks back, but my thing on Houston is they got so many good young players that it doesn't seem like they even have room for all of them. So I understand the idea of cashing in for a Giannis, but cashing in for a 37-year-old, we'll get to the Heat's perspective on this in a second. It just doesn't seem like they're inclined. And I've talked to a couple of national media friends, and I'm not calling these reports, but people who know the Houston front office a little bit, and they don't think they're sandbagging. They don't think that the Rockets are really going to get that involved here. So I'm just, that's an educated guess to say that of those three teams out there, it's really the Spurs. There's been a lot of buzz about the Spurs. Gambo, who's been right about a lot of stuff, who covers the Suns out there, has said the Spurs. Simmons said the Spurs. And the Spurs have a lot to offer. I mean, they could offer Vassell. There's a lot of things they could offer without having to dip into their most precious assets, which obviously are Wemby.
You can make that case for the Rockets too. Where the same. By the way, shout out to you, because that podcast we did yesterday, you had the expert veteran decision to post that one first, and you ended up being so right, because it would have been dated with the Durant news that came out today. So I'm going to give you a shout out there, because you just reminded me.
We literally should have posted this podcast before we started it, because by the time this comes out, it's gonna. But you'll get it up quick. And I do want to get to the extension part on the other side, but I'm saying of the teams in the West, it's San Antonio, and then you look east. And it's apparently we're not hearing Orlando. We're not hearing Detroit. Some of the teams I thought could get involved here. Toronto, where'd that go? Shams didn't mention them. I thought, is Toronto all in on Giannis? Is this just another case of throwing Masai out there, but they're not really going to do anything? I thought they'd be maybe in the mix. But the Knicks, I understand the attraction with the Knicks, but then the report came out from reporters in New York who I trust who say they're not in on Durant. So if they're not in on Durant, and then you take a look at the rest of the East, and we know the weakness of the East. The Heat's only advantage here, but it's a key advantage, I think, and we've talked about it, is that if Durant wants an easier path to win. Now, if you read his tweets, going back at people yesterday talking about the greatness of his career, and it doesn't seem like he's going to do anything just to please anybody else for legacy purposes, right? He's quoting how many points he scored and all the rest of that. But if winning is a priority in any way, he might win bigger with San Antonio, but there's a lot of teams in the way out there. There's not anywhere near as many teams in the way in the East. And so I could see the attractiveness for him in that regard. I understand the Heat's interest. I know we've talked about it a lot. I know some don't agree with it, but I understand where it's coming from. And then the question becomes, okay, what is Phoenix going to ask for? And is Ishbia going to ask for everything like he did before? And then are you willing to trade where? But I want to get to this next on the other side, because it's the core question. And Shams said it today. Durant's expecting an extension. The Heat just balked at giving Jimmy an extension, which, by the way, would have been one less year than Durant in terms of when it ends, because Durant's new extension would be after this upcoming season for 2 more years, whereas Jimmy's extension that he wanted, which Golden State ultimately gave him with a few more million, okay, they paid him, 2 for 120. Basically, that's what Durant's looking for, okay? But that extension that Miami was going to give Jimmy just would have wiped out next year, replaced it with $3 million more, and then given him 1 additional year. You're talking about taking Durant 1 year longer than you were going to take Jimmy, and he's going to be older. He's already older. Okay. So on the other side of this, I want to ask that question. Would you extend Kevin Durant? Because if you're not willing to extend Kevin Durant, then what are we even talking about here? But before we do, let's talk about something important. Everybody knows I'm old. I've leaned into it at this point. I met Abraham Lincoln, according to my daughter. I was there for Wilt's. I mean, Larry Bird, I was already 40 years old when Larry Bird was playing. But when it comes to money, you got to be modern, and that's Cash App. So you got to check out Cash App and our code here. It's important. If you download Cash App and sign up, use our exclusive referral code on the floor. That's on the floor. That's the rest of 5 on the floor. In your profile, you send $5 to a friend. Within 14 days, you get $10 dropped right into your account. So basically doubling your money. Terms apply, but check it out. Again, it's Cash App, this is where you want to go, because not only will you feel safe when you send money, they look out for you. If something seems sketchy, they think you're sending money to a potential scammer. They'll warn you, make you think twice before you hit send. You can even spice up your payments, custom text, stamps, and backgrounds, because why should paying your friend for brunch be so boring? So again, check it out. If for any insane reason you don't have Cash App, and Alex, myself, Brady, Greg, we all have it here at 5 on the Floor, just download it from your phone's app store, sign up, and enter our code on the floor. That's on the floor in your profile. Send $5 to a friend, and you get $10 just for getting started. Got to do it within 14 days. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Okay, so speaking of cash, would you Cash App Kevin Durant this? I'm sure he's got Cash App. Would you send him this? I'm going to send you the figures here. Whenever he's traded, this is from Evan Sittery, who's just basically an aggregator. The strong indication he would sign a 2-year, $120 million extension this offseason. Durant's new team would have him under contract for $174.7 million over 3 years. 54.7 this season, 57.3 the next season, 62.7 in 27-28. He will be 39 at that point. Is that right? 27, yep. 28. Yep. He was born
for 37, 38, and age 39 seasons.
Yeah, he was born in 88. Yeah. So he'd be almost 40, right? Are you comfortable doing that? You were comfortable doing it with Jimmy, but it was one fewer year.
Yep, that was definitely, and he's younger, like you mentioned before. Obviously, right. Durant, the cachet, the resume, his level on like the list of all-time greats, all of that speaks for itself. What he's still great at, despite the things that he's fallen off at. Like, we all know that, right? I don't have to get too much into it. What I will say is, if you're trading for Kevin Durant, and this does kind of relate to the Jimmy stuff in a way, because I kind of held a similar opinion. If you're trading for KD, if you are in the contention window, pay up. It's that simple. Yeah. If you're trading for KD, you pay him. It's not for a 1-year rental. That's not the modern NBA. And it's definitely not going to happen for a Kevin Durant type of player, unless that's what he wants. Unless he wants to be like he wants to go into free agency or whatever. But if he is looking for an extension, like, that's what you do if you're a contender, man. You pay up. You pay and you get everybody secure. You don't have it, something hanging over you like a dark cloud all season where it can potentially blow up, right? I don't have to tell Heat fans about that. And just in general, like, if you are trading assets, even if it's not like let's say that you're the Spurs, right? You're not trading the number 2 pick. You're not trading a Castle. You're obviously not trading a Wemby, right? You're not trading your most valuable things. But even if that's the case, you're trading to get into that contention window. So I think you pay the price at that point. He's still good at what he's good at, and that is a price you only pay if you're contending.
I agree with you entirely on this one. I just wonder how you're going to make the money work. And I guess it's not my problem, but you're right. You're going to have to pay up. And if you're deciding that your core is going to be Bam, Kevin Durant, and Tyler, then you're planning on giving Tyler a pretty significant extension too. And so you're looking at, let's look at the cap sheet right now. Okay, the cap table right now. Bam this year making 37, but the extension is not hit yet. So let's go into 26-27. Okay, just out of curiosity, try to see what they would add up to. By the way, you'd be moving Wiggins in this deal most likely, so you're moving his $30 million out right now, and likely Duncan. But Duncan was done after next year anyway, right? Because he was that was the partial guarantee in the last year of contract. But Bam.
He could be out of here soon. Million. He has the early termination option coming up, by the way.
Who does? Duncan does. He does. You're right. No, he could. Absolutely.
He could be out of here before he even have a chance to waive him.
Well, we need to do a Duncan episode. All right, let me go through this cap table here real quick. Bam, this is 26-27. $51 million. Tyler right now is at 33. But again, could be an extension that could significantly raise that, right? Well, they don't have to. When would that kick in? If they sign him would that kick in 27-28? Would it be 26-27?
I got to see what the end of Tyler's contract is.
Right now his last year of his deal would be 26-27 at $33 million.
Okay, yeah, so it's 27-28.
Okay, so right now we're saying for 26-27, you would have Durant's number for 26-27 would be $57 million. Bam would be at 51. We're at $108 million right there. Tyler at 33. So you're at $141 million for 3 players. No Wiggins as of, I'm assuming.
What's
so the 30 out.
What's the number? Biggest, what's the line there?
Well, we don't know yet, right? Because but the next biggest contract would be Kyle Anderson last year of his deal at 9. So you would have only as of now. Now Davion Mitchell, Jovic could get extended, stay, and
plus
be
whoever they draft.
Plus whoever they draft is not going to be over $10 million at that point. I'm talking about. So you're looking at players who'd be 8-figure players. You could have Davion, you could have Jovic, right? Depending on what happens with them this offseason, and others. But other than them, you would have 3 players over $10 million, but they'd be making 57, 51, and 33 respectively. So you're talking about $141 million tied up into 3 guys, and that's before Tyler's extension, which would kick in the next year. So let's just look at the next year, what you could potentially be looking at in 27-28. If you take a look at this at 27-28, you've got Bam's extension is fully kicked in by then. Okay, and I'm just pulling this off a Spoke Track for those who are wondering why I'm scrolling here. Bam, excuse me. Why did that come up? I'm sorry. There, it's still filtering. Okay, but I think Bam's goes up to 56, something along those lines. We've got Durant going. We got Durant then at 62. At 62, and Tyler could be somewhere in the 40s for the first year of his deal.
Honestly, to sum it up, they're probably just going to take up like 95% or more of your cap right there. Maybe that's
so. I asked that
90%.
Well, and you're going to get a bump with a TV contract and all that stuff, so you can have a little bit more wiggle room. But I'll just ask this. I mean, are you comfortable with Bam, Tyler, and Kevin Durant taking up an enormous percentage of your cap under your tax lines, or a tax line under your aprons, under this CBA, where we've seen it's very difficult to have more than 2 really high-priced players? If you extend Durant, and I'm with you, you don't trade for Durant unless you extend him. I stand by that. I stand by what you're saying completely. But if you are doing this, you are committing to a core of Bam, Durant, and Tyler, and saying that team can get out of the Eastern Conference. That if you put other pieces, you're going to have to find some minimums. You're going to have to whatever your draft. But the draft pick this year, though, Alex, is probably going for Durant, right? So you're not paying this one. But if you're keeping Ware down the road, you're looking at an extension for him potentially. I don't know that Hawkins is going to put himself in extension eligibility.
That would be past
for the Heat. Probably traded.
That would be past KD's window here because he's got 3 more years.
Right.
So
okay. All right. So you're not as worried. So you're basically saying right now you're trying to operate with Bam, Durant, Tyler, maybe a re-signed Mitchell. Jovic is probably gone. Okay. You'll get Rozier off the books next year if you're not able to move him this offseason. And probably Ware, right, on a rookie contract. And Larson on a rookie contract. Second-round rookie contract. And then you're looking at minimums. You're looking at, can you grab a Tyus Jones for the minimum? Can you grab, guys who are out there?
Back on the team.
Well, I think Burks would definitely be back.
Maybe a Thomas Bryant redemption run.
Right. But are you right? But this is what we're talking about. Is this because I put this on our Discord on Off the Floor, and like 65% are comfortable extending KD. But and again, if you're going to acquire him, you've got to be comfortable extending him. And I'm in favor of them acquiring him, by the way, as long as they don't give up too many of the young pieces. Where I get a little dicey on this, okay? And I hate giving up Jovic, but again, you got to give to get, particularly if there's other suitors here. But are you comfortable, basically saying this is your team? This is your team.
I guess, yeah. Right. But in the sense of like, it's a lot better than what's going on right now, but that's also a low bar and not exactly what should be driving your decisions. Man, what I come down to, it's like, if you're making a trade like this, it's because you're going into a short-term window, right? With Durant being older and all that. At the same time, we all know that this doesn't make them a favorite. but then that's something that you got to be okay with if you're making this move. It's like you're making a move like that to get yourself back in the mix with the hope of doing something. It's not like you become an outright favorite. And honestly, shout out to Wes Goldberg. I believe he was the one from on Locked On who made this point. Every trade, every move shouldn't always be looked at under the scope of, well, this make them the favorites. Will this make you the champion? Well, like in that, like, and he said it about Siakam in that trade as an example, and I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more because fans are always talking about, well, this doesn't put you past Boston or put you past whoever. It's like, yeah, obviously,
you don't know.
like, I can always name the 3 best teams in the league and be like, this doesn't make you better than them. But at the end of the day, like, are you trying to make your team better or not? And we can argue about whether or not this is the right move, and that's 100% valid. 100% a valid conversation. I just don't think every move should be looked at under the guise of, is this going to make you a favorite? But with this conversation, you are literally making that trade to become, like some sort of playoff
relevant. You're making this trade to become relevant again.
Absolutely. That's
so I think
I'm comfortable with it.
To matter again.
If you're okay with that, if you're not expecting, a finals trip every year. And I think if, trying to look at it from the Heat side, like if they decided this is the move that they would want to go to, I think they would try it out. It would be really tight on the books, like you said. And then maybe if it, like they dangle Tyler or something doesn't work out, like I think there's ways to maneuver, but it's not an ideal, like, I don't think it's an ideal situation by any means. Like, it's going to be a lot of question marks as far as like, does Tyler, Bam, KD get you close enough? How much can you put around them? They'll be in the mix. They'll be a playoff team. And, you got no Boston next year, which is all nice and good. I don't know how much of a championship contender it makes you. But it's just on the other side of this, if they don't land one of these guys, they're going to end up just trying to get under the tax, or at the very least, get under the first apron.
And then they'll have more assets. They'll have more assets in 26 to work with, which we've talked about, and there'll be more options.
But the options in 26 though is the free agency, which never happens anymore.
No, I know, but even they will be in better position with some of what they've got. Here's where I'm at with it, and we'll do more episodes on this. Okay, they want to be relevant. They don't like being irrelevant. They become irrelevant over the past couple of years. It's a stopgap option, and
which they've sold their tickets for all of us, by the way.
That's all I care about at this point. I mean, look, here's the thing. He's a great player. He's still a great player. I mean, the metrics don't lie. What he produces when he plays, okay? I don't love paying a guy up until he's close to 40, but if you were to say one guy in the league whose game will age, well, we've always said it was KD. Because of what he... And it has, and it's because of what he relies on is not something that's going to be stripped by age. Now, is he going to miss time with injuries? Yes, he has. Will he try to play when he can? Yes, and that's what makes him different from Jimmy.
I wish they had another guy who could get to the rim. That's my thing.
I know. But I'm going to throw this at you, and we'll close on this because we're going to do a whole other episode on this. I could make the argument that this is the best fitting three-player pairing that he's had since Golden State. I think because there wasn't any defender. There wasn't any defender in the ones in Phoenix and in Brooklyn. And so if I'm the Heat, I'm looking at this and I'm saying he hasn't had a Bam in the last few years to protect him defensively, to work with him defensively, and allow him to be himself. Also, this takes so much pressure off Bam on the offensive end. That I think we could see the best of Bam from an efficiency standpoint. But look, you look at what he had in Brooklyn. Yes, they had Nick Claxton who was coming up, but you look what he had in Brooklyn. Okay, Harden and Kyrie. It was just like, it's like a summer league thing. I mean, there was 3 scorers out there together. Okay, I know Kyrie kind of sunk it with the whole thing with the vaccine and Harden, whatever. But you look in Phoenix, Booker, Beal, and Durant. Why would you put that together?
I think the Nets one was a lot better than the Suns one. As far as because Harden and Kyrie were much better, especially Harden. Like I think Harden was able to play point guard and like he is a natural there as a facilitator. Whereas Booker, Beal, KD, you're literally shoving 3 scorers together who can play make and you just make something out of it. And like you mentioned, no defensive infrastructure. I'm with you.
But that's the biggest thing. That's what I'm talking about. The defensive infrastructure. I understand that Tyler is not Harden as a creator playmaker. Okay, no matter what I think of Harden, I'm not going to make that argument. But I'm saying if you're going to try to get the best out of Bam and Tyler, if you're going to pay them what you're planning to pay them, and you want to maximize them, well, if you get a guy like KD to take the offensive pressure off of Bam, that will help maximize the things that Bam does best. Okay,
Sure.
And with Tyler as a second scorer, with the attention going to KD, with what we've seen Tyler has been able to accomplish even when everybody's been on him, even though obviously in the playoffs it became too challenging. I understand the Heat's thinking on that, and I also understand why KD may look at it and say, I can just be me there. I'll play for Spo. He'll maximize me.
10 good West teams just to get somewhere
Correct.
in the playoffs. You can get to a long playoff run in the East. Like, it's actually possible.
Correct.
In the West, everything has to go right. You have to be one of the best teams in the league all the time. In the East, not necessarily, baby. The Heat have shown that over and over.
It's a good place to spend your late 30s. I mean, just getting yourself 27 and just trying to get a 4 seed in the East and see what you can do with it. I see the reason for all of it from all sides. Do I think they'll ultimately get him? I still think if the Spurs really want him, they'll get him. I just think they have too much to offer over the top here if they want to do it.
I would put them in there. And I'm not to get down into them. I'm not going to do all that right now. But like, it would really come down to like Minnesota would have a package around Gobert and maybe a pick or two. Knicks would have a package around Cat and maybe a pick or two. If they offer that, which is, something that we don't even know. But then you've got the Rockets, who, as you mentioned with the Spurs earlier, like they can afford, they can give up stuff. And by the way, they have the highest pick out of all the teams mentioned.
They do.
At number 10. So they could throw that in. They could throw other salary fillers, not give up any of their young core, and still they could go KD into the short-term window since they're already good, and then come out on the other side of it with still all of their best young players. So I would throw the Rockets in there.
Does KD really want to play in Texas, though? I wonder. I don't know. I mean, where he went to college, I know, but I just feel for him like in Miami, this is the best time for him to come to Miami. One of the problems I thought about him coming to Miami in 2016, even though he was tempted, and obviously Golden State won out because they had Curry and Draymond and Clay. But one of the reasons I thought that 2016 didn't make sense was it was too close to the time that LeBron was here. And there was always this rivalry between KD and LeBron. I experienced it. I wrote an article about KD through LeBron's eyes, and KD challenged me at the All-Star game about it. Okay. There was always this rivalry between the two of them. And it was 2 years, again, after LeBron had left. It's now more than a decade. I don't think that anybody is going to disparage KD for going to Miami now. It's not like LeBron going to Miami to play with Dwayne. If anything, they're going to say, well, he doesn't. We talked about this in the last episode. He doesn't care about winning anymore.
If he came here, if they traded for him, KD went to Miami to retire. Oh, man, we're going to be going circle.
Well, that's what they said about Jimmy. And whatever you want to say negatively about Jimmy, that certainly was not the case, at least not until the last season. So I think it makes sense for all sides. You have to extend him if you're acquiring him, but you got to be comfortable that this is your team. This is your team, and Heat fans are going to be, they can't get this guy, can't get. No, you can't. I know they're going to say, well, you get. But the point of this episode was, would you extend him? I think both of us are saying, yes, you have to, if you're trading for him.
That doesn't even mean though that and yes, I would extend him if you trade for him, but that doesn't mean that I'm like necessarily like ecstatic, like, yeah, this is it.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know, but it's
like, yeah, let's try this. This could be fun and this could be good. Let's just try it because everything else is just not looking great. That's the best I got.
I'm with you. All right, I'm with you. It's like you find the Wendy's because it's the only thing. That your other choices, you have no other choices in it.
KD's better than a Wendy's, and look,
in a town that you go to, so you're like, you know what, I can get the chicken nuggets and a Baconator. All right, Alex, appreciate it. Check out our sponsors, Cash App, download it, use the code on the floor, Prize Picks, use the code FIVE. We'll have more as stuff develops. Also, draft episode with Adele. Make sure you check that one out. We're still doing those. And Brady's doing his draft series. He's breaking down everybody. So he's got the threads, and he'll be here on the podcast. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.